G'day everyone, Mark from Inside Rugby here. If you haven't been here before, I'm a Kiwi rugby fan who's living in beautiful Cancun in Mexico. And this weekend I've watched a bit of rugby. In fact, I watched Leinster against the Stormers, I watched Munster against the Lions, and I watched the Reds play the Blues in the Super Rugby competition down under. So I'm going to give reviews of those in 3 separate videos, so make sure you check them all out. This one though is going to be focused on the Stormers versus Leinster. Yes, that game that was played in Cape Town yesterday, and very interesting game it was coming into this game. As we all know, Leinster have sent their B or C team, as some of them are calling it, down to this tour of South Africa, and they got beaten by the Lions the week before, and now they're up against the Stormers at the beautiful DHL Stadium in Cape Town. So let's get into this review and I'll tell you what I thought of the game. So a couple of achievements recognised before this game, as there should be, because I think when players hit certain milestones in their careers it should be recognised. And 39-year-old Brock Harris, who's playing for the Stormers, made his 150th appearance, and this guy is an absolutely phenom. He's played for a number of clubs and he's racked up over 100 caps for those clubs. So Brock Harris at the age of 39, still going strong. He talks about going on into his 40s and playing rugby at this great level, so that's a great achievement from Harris indeed. And then also we had Evan Roos for the Stormers. He was achieving his 50th cap yesterday, and also Marcel Tiesman, who was also playing his 50th cap. So some good achievements there from those players as they ran on to the DHL Stadium to play against Leinster. Now, as soon as this game got underway at the DHL Stadium, we had our first cringe moment in the very first second of that game, and it came from that man, Manie Libbok. And if you've watched any of my videos throughout the World Cup, you know that I'm a big fan of Manie Libbok, and I think he's going to turn into an absolute superstar rugby player. But every now and again, he has these games where things just go off the rails a little bit, and that happened in the very first minute, or the very first seconds of this game against Leinster. His kickoff from the halfway didn't travel more than about 4 meters, and it was a bit of a shocker. Obviously he was looking for a short kickoff, didn't work out on this occasion, and gave the advantage straight away to Leinster. So not a good start for Manie Libbok in this game. A couple of little issues for Manie Libbok, didn't make too much of a difference, because in the 4th minute of the game, Leinster had the ball, they were passing it out through their back line, they dropped it during a pass, and the Stormers swooped on it, picked it up and passed it out to Ben Lote on the wing for the Stormers, and he took off 50 meters down the field to score the first try of the game, and a great try it was to the Stormers. Lote's got a bit of a pace, there was no one that was going to catch him from the Leinster team, and they went in for their very first try in this game. It was converted by Manie Libbok, and before we knew it, within 5 minutes of the game, we had the Stormers out to 7 points to 0. And in the first 10 minutes it was all the Stormers. They were making all the play of the game, they were looking like they were playing an expansive game. Leinster were having problems from the set pieces as well, and just sheer possession and territory from the Stormers was working in their favour. We got into the 10th minute of the game and the Stormers were down on attack again. They went actually over the line of Leinster, but the ball was held up, so there was no try awarded on that particular occasion. The Stormers were playing very well and using a lot of creativity in their back play to get through the Leinster defence early on in this game. We got to the 18th minute of the game, and indiscretion from the Leinster team gave the Stormers a kicking opportunity for goal. Within kicking range, Manie Libbok got the kick over, and we found that the Stormers were out to 10 points to 0 after 18 minutes of the game. One of the things I'll say about this particular Leinster team compared to their A team is that they just haven't got the same levels of accuracy in their play. So when they go to do some good line breaks, etc., they usually end up having a drop pass, or a player gets in the way, or just a small critical error that comes up and stops them from completing that play. And when you look at the Leinster A team, they're very accurate and clinical when it comes to their execution of play. And I think that's the biggest thing I've picked up in the last couple of weeks from this Leinster team, is they just don't have that and that comes from experience. Of course, a lot of these players are getting their opportunities to play at this level for either the first time or against this good competition, and those things are going to come when they get more and more opportunities. So that's something that I've recognised in this Leinster B/C team since they've been in South Africa, and if they're able to put some of those moments together, then we're going to see a much better performance from them, and we actually did see that later on in this game. And in the 18th minute of the game, we saw one of those players in the Leinster team who's been a bit of a standout for me. He's Sam Prendergast, number 10. I think he's been playing pretty well in the last couple of games, and he had an opportunity to take a penalty kick for touch, and he put it very, very deep into the Stormers 22 after taking that kick from around about the halfway line. It was a very accurate kick, it was a very good kick, and Prendergast seems to have quite a lot of skills that I'm looking forward to following as he evolves his career with this Leinster team and beyond. The scrums were a problem for Leinster too in the beginning of this game, and in particular Alatoa. I think some of you have mentioned him in the comments before as being a bit of a weak link for the Leinster scrum, and they were having problems against the Stormers. The Stormers were really putting on them. That man, Brock Harris, was having a great start to the game. In the first 30 minutes, Leinster lost 3 scrums against the Stormers, so a big telling point there. And it was going to be interesting to see what happened with their reserves when they came on, to see whether they could stem that tide of wins to scrums to Stormers, or whether that was going to be a continuing problem for Leinster throughout this match. We got to the 30th minute mark and the Stormers got another opportunity for a penalty kick. Mani Lebok got that over. It was 13 points to nil after 30 minutes. And I was kind of making an assessment of this game and saying that it didn't really have any rhythm to it at this stage. Both teams were trying to basically feel each other out, see where their weaknesses were. The Stormers were playing more expansive rugby, but they weren't really being able to make too much of an inroads into this Leinster defence, and when they did score points. So that was the takeaway for the Stormers in the first 30 minutes. They were keeping the scoreboard ticking over. Now, I've said in a lot of videos before, I have this theory that if you want to beat Leinster, or basically win any game in the URC or Super Rugby these days, you've got to score over 30 points. That seems to be the benchmark when it comes to beating these teams. So I was looking forward to seeing whether the Stormers could execute enough of their plays today in this game to get over 30 points and have a chance of putting Leinster away. It was looking good at 13 points to nil after 30 minutes of the first half. So the 35th minute of the game, just 5 minutes before half time, we saw one of those Mani Lebok little pieces of genius. A cross kick past Heisenberg on the wing, nearly got the ball and stayed in play, and if he'd done that, he would have been able to run away and probably scored a try for the Stormers. Didn't work out, he went into touch, but it was just that little piece of genius again we see from Mani Lebok. And if you watch how he actually kicked that ball, it was really interesting because he was flat-footed, actually falling backwards, didn't have a lot of time to execute it, but it was pinpoint accurate, and it was just through Heisenberg not being able to stay in the field of play that unfortunately didn't turn into something great for the Stormers. So a few minutes later, we're just a minute out from half time, the Stormers got another opportunity to put a penalty kick over, and Mani Lebok got that. So the Stormers were out to 16 points to nil as we went into half time. And then we went into extra time more or less in the first half, and we got up to 43 minutes in fact. And the exact thing the Leinster team didn't want to happened with the Stormers scoring a very late try in that first half. And it was a good build-up again. It was the Stormers forwards heading towards the line, maul after maul, pick and go. Then the ball came out and it went to Murat. He had about 2 or 3 metres just to run over and drop and put the ball down, not drop the ball down, and score a good try for the Stormers right on half-time. And Mani Lebok got the conversion over, so the Stormers went to half-time at 23 points to nil, and that's something that the Leinster team were definitely not looking for. Leo Cullen would have been disappointed with that late try in the first half. I think it was really going to be making the difference whether Leinster were going to get back into this game, and they would have gone to their heads a little bit, they would have gone to half-time I think with their heads a little bit down, the Leinster team. On the other side, the Stormers, they got the points on the board when it mattered, even though some of their plays weren't flowing that well. But when you've got 23 points in the first half, they should have been pretty happy with that, I think. As we often say in the game of rugby, whoever scores first in the second half is going to be a big deal. There's going to be momentum in the game, whether you're winning or losing. and in this case it was an opportunity for the Stormers once again from the base of a scrum. Herschel Yankee saw an opportunity, put a little step on, and then went 25 metres directly to the post and score a try untouched by the Leinster defence. The Leinster defence went to sleep early on in the second half there. Yankee spotted the opportunity and put his foot down and got to the line no problem at all. So an early try in the second half to the Stormers, exactly what Leinster didn't want, and the conversion was an easy one for Manie Libbok. So we went to 30 points to 0 for the Stormers, and there was no doubt about it in my mind that they were going to be able to run away and win this game. In the 48th minute of the game, Byrne from Leinster went off with a very bad blood injury. Looked like he'd cut his eye or something. There's a lot of blood involved. The referee had a little bit of a trouble getting him off the field, but once he did, things started to turn around for Leinster. I'm not saying that because Byrne went off, and as is usually the case, the momentum does eventually swing in the game, and from about the 49th minute for the next 10 or 15 minutes it was all Leinster. They really got into the game and they started to make some good headway against the Stormers team, and that actually coincided with a few reserves coming on for Leinster, so it did work. We saw a new scrum. The scrum improved dramatically for Leinster and they started getting some decent ball. So in the 50th minute of the game they were hard on attack, Leinster, moving it through their forwards. The ball came out to Deegan, who just had a couple of metres to get over for the try. He succeeded in doing that. Prendergast put it over the conversion, and the first points were on the board for Leinster in the 50th minute of the game. A little bit too late for them, I had anticipated. So there we go, it was 30 points to 7 at that stage, but again, I said it was all Leinster at that stage, and right from the kickoff they got another opportunity, put some more points on the board against the Stormers team. It was in the 52nd minute, so it was just 2 minutes after that try from Deegan, and it was Rob Russell who took off for a fantastic 48-metre run down the left-hand side of the field. Showed a lot of pace, got past the Stormers defence and went in for a good try out fairly wide, and a difficult attempt for Prendergast to get the conversion. Unfortunately he missed it, so the score is at 30 points to 12 in favour of the Stormers at that stage, but Leinster were playing way better at this particular period of the game and showed some enterprise as Russell started to turn on the injectors and got away from the Stormers defence. A good try from Leinster, and they were clawing their way back into the game. The 58th minute of the game, it didn't get any better for the Stormers. Evan Roos was deemed to be playing foul play, and he was sent from the field with a yellow card. And Roos was an interesting one to watch in this game. I really like this guy, he's a fantastic player, but I think Leinster had their defensive pattern set up so Roos couldn't do some of those terrific breaks he does from the breakdown area. He was pretty mighty in the breakdown throughout the game while he was on the field, but I think Leinster actually had him covered from a defensive point of view. They thought he was one of the danger players in the Stormers team. Now the Stormers got a penalty from this opportunity, but unfortunately Libbok missed that kick, so the Stormers stayed at that 30 points to 12 lead. And that's basically where the Leinster resurgence in this game came to a bit of an end. We got to the 69th minute of the game, and Engelbrecht had come on and scored a great try for the Stormers, and that really put the nail in the coffin as far as the Leinster team were concerned, I thought, in this game. The Stormers had scored 4 tries, so they got a bonus point, and Libbok got the conversion over, so 37 points to 12 as we headed into the last 10 minutes of the game. And then in the 78th minute of the game, just with a couple of minutes left on the clock, we saw Gallant get the ball out wide for the Stormers, set up a great dummy against the 2 defenders that were coming across from Leinster. They both brought the dummy, and Gallant went on to score in the corner. It was a very good individual try once he got the ball to come out through the back line. Willemse, I think it was, that passed it on to Gallant, and he just set up the 2 Leinster players very well for the dummy, so he went in for a good try to the Stormers. So the 4th try was scored for the Stormers. The bonus point was in the bag, and all it took was Manie Libbok to have a go at the conversion, which he hit the post and missed, unfortunately. So it was 42 points to 12, the final score in this game, and a well-deserved win to the Stormers. So as I said, if you're able to score 30 plus points against Leinster, you'll probably come away with the win. And like the Lions proved last weekend in Jo'Burg, it was the case again this weekend in Cape Town, with the Stormers coming out on top. So overall, I think Leinster played a little bit better in this game than they did against the Lions. The Lions were able to use their expansive game a lot more against Leinster. The defence wasn't so good. But in this game, we saw Russell, Deegan, Prendergast playing really well for Leinster. I thought they had very, very strong games. I liked Russell on the wing. He looked very, very dangerous. And Prendergast, as I said, at number 10, offers a lot for this Leinster team in the years to come. On the Stormers side, I thought it was a good game by their forwards. They dominated in that first half. They put pressure on the scrum of Leinster and they set up a lot of penalties, so that was enabling them to keep the scoreboard ticking over. When they did get a couple of opportunities in broken play, they were able to convert those into tries, and when they were close to the line, there was a little bit of individual brilliance, as we saw from Herschel Youngies, and he scored that great try under the post. So a good win from the Stormers. That helps their situation, of course, in the URC this year, and they'll be looking forward to getting into the playoffs to have an opportunity at the URC Championships. What happens to Leinster now? Well, we go back to Europe, of course, and they've got that big game coming up next weekend against the Saints in the Champions Cup semi-final. I'll be doing a few videos on that one for sure, so make sure you stick around here on the channel, and the best way to do that is to hit the subscribe button. And while you're doing that, why don't you give this video a bit of a thumbs up if you enjoy my content as well. So for those players that were celebrating a milestone in their career, Brock Harris had a really good game until he was substituted. Marcel Tiesman played well as well until he went off, and Evan Roos, of course, with that yellow card, was the only indiscretion he had in the game, and he did play well in the second half. So it was a good game from all those players that were celebrating milestones in their game. Okay folks, well that's it for my review on the Leinster versus the Stormers from Cape Town yesterday in South Africa. A good game of rugby without being a brilliant game of rugby, a deserved win to the Stormers. And make sure you check out my other videos on this channel with the games from this weekend that I reviewed for the Inside Rugby channel. Okay, that's it. Until next time, I'll be back again soon with more content. Until then, stay safe, stay well everyone, and it's time to say adios from beautiful Mexico. Bye for now.